Hello whisky fans, hello maltsters, and hello pat pals. I'm Ralphie, welcome to The Whisky Bothy. This is a bothy where whisky is sampled, assessed, talked about, discussed and rated, reviewed of course, and every now and again rants are basically delivered. But not as much as they used to be honest, because I've got to the stage with this channel, I'm not focusing so much on the widely available mainstream whiskies. And I'm going to be perfectly honest with you, many of them are quite competent, but excuse me, off, you've had your treats, leave, do as you're commanded by your master. If you were a dog, you would. Now, could you please leave? You've had your treats and you're just being greedy. Now, get off the barrel, off. And don't come back for a while. Right, that's it. Could you excuse me a minute, please? You're barred from the bothy. We're taking you away and we're putting you outside and you're not allowed in. Because you're a naughty cat. Don't come back. Normal service, well, as much as what you would say is normal in this channel, may now resume. I don't review as many mainstream, widely available brands as I used to, because increasingly I find them disappointing. Not generally that they're bad whiskies, although some of them are, but generally because they are engineered to be less dramatic with flavour and to appeal to more and more diversified consumers. And these are people who, they want the brand of whisky, but they don't want to upset by having too much flavour. And I'm not judging in this, I'm just calling it as it really is. But the people who watch whisky videos on YouTube don't tend to be the passive consumers. In other words, the fact that you're here at this channel, which by the way has been going for a long time, so if you're just joining us for the first time, welcome. But in recent years I've started to review what are quite simply more interesting whiskies. The strength is usually a little bit higher. They've not been excessively chill filtered, and therefore the mouthfeel, the texture, the extra quality that comes from a good Scotch single malt whisky, it's intact, it's present, and it doesn't take that long for us to start to develop our palates to such an extent that we really appreciate this. We appreciate just what Scotch whisky can be. And this is a very good example of what I'm about to review for you. It's a small independent bottler called Little Brown Dog, based in Aberdeenshire in Scotland. And it's not a big independent bottler, but it's becoming more widely available, and like many of the other independent bottlers, many of which are quite small, they're not very big, they're bottling more variety and diversity of single malt signatures in genuinely exciting ways, because they are either small batch or single casks. In other words, the singularity of the single cask, that authenticity is very much intact. And when you buy a bottle, you're simply getting more complexity, more texture of flavour, and of course the delivery of authentic Scotch single malt whisky. But these companies also do blends, they also do blended malts, malt blends, and often they can provide much better value for money than the overly marketed and increasingly expensive big brand options, which, as time goes on, frankly, appeals to us less and less. So let's pour a glass and let's tell you a bit more about this, seeing as I have successfully set the scene. Absolutely, this is natural colour. It's Ardmore single malt whisky from the Speyside Highland, East Highland region of Scotland. As far as I'm concerned, no ifs, no buts, Ardmore is a Highland distillery. Its character is not Speyside. Its character is in fact Highland. To get this kind of experience from official bottlings is very difficult because official bottlings are rather restricted in the diversity of availability. You have the standard legacy at 40%, which I recommend you do not buy, whatever the cost, because it's underaged and it's pretty rough. Right, I've said it. Hey, I'm buying this. I buy what I review on this channel, and that gives me the freedom to discuss things from my perspective and just to give an honest opinion. An honest opinion is I've been really enjoying this, and I want to tell you why I bought it in my next review, 1098 extras, right, which will be coming along shortly. So this is 11 years old. It's bottled at 57.1%. That's a lot of alcohol. That's a lot of alcohol. But don't forget, folks, younger whiskey, high alcohol, more spirit, signature and flavour. It is, in my opinion, unchill filtered, although they do not state it's unchill filtered. It really should say so. It wouldn't cost much in printer's ink to say so. So, Little Brown Dog, do yourselves a favour. State it's unchill filtered when it's unchill filtered. We can find out by doing the fridge test, but it really helps when we have it on the label, because the label of the bottle is the contract. That is natural colour, by the way. There is no E150 caramel colourant in that, or it would look a lot darker and look a lot more orangey. It's Ardmore. What should I be expecting? Well, I should be expecting one of my favourite signatures from the Scotch whisky range. It's right up there as far as I'm concerned with Mortlach and Edre Dure and Kilkerran and Springbank. You know, it is old school, savoury, industrial style whisky, and that's the style I really enjoy the most. I'm not particularly interested in the sherry monsters, peat monsters, as much as I am in the understated, slightly fusile complexity of these old school style single malts, which I've always had a soft spot for them, and frankly I always will. What have we got in the nose here? Just a gentle roll around the glass. First smell. I find immediately that I'm not picking up a lot of high strength alcohol nip. In fact, it's remarkably soft, fruity, barley sugar, confectionery, and vanilla. This tells me that the cask that they've used to mature this whisky, as stated on the label, it says a first fill bourbon barrel. I would like to take that a little bit further and say that purely on the nose, it is a very active, really good quality first fill ex-bourbon barrel. And it's doing a magnificent job already. First taste, again, tiny sip, because it's so strong in terms of alcohol. I'll be adding water shortly. Oh, big nip. Sting. It actually stings the palate. And yet there's also that delightful wood, charcoal, industrial, steam engine, boiler room type flavour in there. It's carbolic, it's burnt licorice. The actual signature, even with all that alcohol in it cannot be hidden away. It's beautifully expressive. So I'm going to add water now. And what I recommend is, when you've got an independent bottling whisky, high strength, one of the signs as to the proactiveness of the maturation is when you gently roll your 5 millilitres of water out your soda spoon down the inside of the glass, and then you look at the visimetry inside the glass. The visimetry are the weaving threads of alcohol and water, which initially don't really want to bond together, but latterly they have no choice but to. So I'm holding up to the light here in the bothy, and even now I'm seeing these threads like water over a Highland loch, rippling the water. That's what I'm seeing inside this glass. Now I'm going to add, and the reason I'm adding this is because it's what works for me. I want access to the flavour. I don't just want an alcohol hit. The purpose of the alcohol is to carry the flavour, not just to give me a slap around the face. So that's me added 10 millilitres from the perfect measure spoon into the glass. It's looking even lighter now. It looks almost dilute. It looks almost like a German Riesling wine. It's that light in appearance, but don't be fooled by appearances, because it's chock full of flavour, and the cask has been really, really busy over these years. In my opinion, when you get a cask this fresh, it usually means that there was a new cask brought in about 2 or 3 years ago, and the previous cask was doing fine but not quite enough. So I suspect this has been the second bourbon cask, but that's purely a personal opinion. I'm not stating that as a fact. It's just that our palates, as we gain more experience, we pick up in these things. So I've given it a couple of minutes now. Let's go back to the smell. Savoury, floral and herbaceous. There's a slight fusile note, a distinctive peaty flare in there, but it's not the salty peat that we get from Islay. It's the nutty peat we get from Scotland, usually up in the Inverness area with malting factories up near Inverness. It's an exciting whisky for me, and I've not really got into the flavour yet, but I'm going to do that now. Luscious, intense grapefruit juice. It really makes you go, right. It's got that beautiful bitter sour grapefruit rind note. It's heavy with the rind. Now, I can immediately see why, if Uncle or Auntie was given this to see in the new year instead of a bottle of Glenfiddich 12-year-old, they'd take one taste of it and then they would flood it with Coca-Cola because it's a bit too nippy. However, this is not Glenfiddich 12-year-old. This is an independent bottling of an absolutely ripping signature of a single malt coming from an active and very friendly cask, which is toning down the drama that you get from Ardmore, but still delivering a whack and a punch to the palate as it does so. There's plenty of drama in this one, a lot of drama. The nose is softened considerably. In fact, it's over softened. I'm not picking up so much on the nose now, but that really doesn't bother me, because I know from experience in my last few drams out this bottle that I needed to add the 10 millilitres of water so as my palate could just relax and enjoy the complexity of the experience without it being distorted by the nip of the concentrated alcohol. Lemon and lime. Grapefruit's hanging in there. Real tart, bitter, intense, almost jaggy sour note. Balanced off by the sweetness of that bourbon cask, that vanilla note, and the biscuitiness, the sweet biscuit that's coming out of the barley itself. When you leave this sitting in the glass with a lid on it and come back to it in half an hour or even an hour's time, it will have transformed into a superb, languid, fruity, almost cough lozenge. You know, these lemon and lime Swiss cough lozenges with lots of herbs in them to make them intense flavoured despite their diminutive size. Well, that's what you're getting here, and it delivers it beautifully. I'm thoroughly enjoying this whisky. It is delightful, and I really love the fact that when we pour a glass of standard 40% supermarket whisky, you won't get this quality of conversation as we do with this small independent bottling single cask delivery of an old school dram, delivered old school, with not just the filtering but without the over engineering and mixing of different casks. Some more active, some less active, many less active, because that goes into official bottlings. What you're getting here is you're getting the taste of yesteryear. And I would suggest that yesteryear's coming back into fashion. It's in an age in which you and I and all the maltsters around the world are in a position to appreciate it and value it more than any previous generation ever has. One final taste now before I give a malt mark. The nose is returning. It took a bit of a dampening because of the water I added. This isn't unusual. Those who are hasty with their whisky tend to miss out on an awful lot of the quality of the conversation between the drinker and the dram. We are not like that. When you pour a glass of whisky like this, it should last you at least an hour. Even better when you have the accompaniment of a humble standard blend, which is very cheap to buy, relatively speaking. You have the perfect comparison and contradiction, which highlights the quality of what we have here. It is lovely. It's just lovely. It's getting sweeter on the arrival now. Sweeter on the arrival. Bit more honey coming in. Sultana's coming through as well. Slightly tangy sultana. There's some green ginger in the background which you never notice in first pour. Take my word for it. It's not even there until you add the water. And that green ginger, it's almost, I wouldn't call it wasabi, that would be going too far, but it's that sort of sushi green ginger that's been slightly more intensely pickled than what you get in the supermarket or a takeaway. And this gives this even more substance of character. And the finish is light. There's a little bit of lemon biscuitiness in the finish. So you have a dram of contradictions. The outrageous, intense, sour grapefruit rind note, and then the lemons drops, the lemon lozenges in there. Then you get that little lemon and lime thing going on before the ginger comes through. The vanilla re-exerts itself, backed up by the lightest of sultana notes. And then we go into the finish. Tannins, no, not from this cask. No. Very little tannins in the finish. It's crisp, tart, and beautiful. Intense, but elegant with it. Now, I've got to give this a mark and move on. It's another absolute banger. Distilled in 2013, by the way, just in case you want to know. I enjoy this so much. 85 out of 100. That's the malt mark. And if you want to join me again, pop back into the bothy for my next review, 1098 extras. I shall compare this side by side with another Ardmore that I reviewed earlier this year, and I will simply compare and contrast the two of them together. So join me for that. I'll see you there. Bye bye.